Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. It's back. Baseball's back. I know some of you DGens played the showdown slate, the one-game showdown slate for 50K to first last night. I did too, but no worries if you did. No worries if you lost your money and then you burned it all. It's fine. Tonight we have a 13-game MLB slate. The MLB is back, and by God, when it is the NBA All-Star break in the last week, it is torture. The MLB All-Star break, only 4 days. It doesn't quite get there yet. Obviously, there's not a lot of other sports going on, so it's a little bit tougher in the summer, but I'm happy it's back, which is something like 2 months ago I didn't think I would be saying. But anyways, happy Friday. It is July 12th. Hopefully you're all having a good start to your weekends. Hopefully this video is going to help you out for the slate tonight. I have some pitchers. I don't have a single pitcher blind above $9,000 that I'm interested in. Yeah, nobody. So it's going to be an interesting one to talk about. I think pitching is going to be spread out today. There's very interesting pricing for the first day back. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome to the channel. My name is Sal Vetri, Salvatore Vetri, but Sal for short. You can call me Sal. And I cover NFL, MLB right here, the WNBA, the video for that. 5-game slate today. You rarely get a 5-game WNBA slate, which means it's very good. You can get different in cash, and there's players returning from overseas. Did a video on that. You'll have lots of edges if you just kind of watch the video, to be completely honest. That video is up. And then, yeah, NFL waiting for the sleeping giant. The NBA season sadly done, but, never actually ends with the trades of Russ going to the Rockets. But you don't care about any of this stuff. So MLB, that's what we're focusing on. Hit the like button before you start. Link down below is Patreon. You can get these sheets over there. I also do frequent articles over there in terms of ranking my top pitchers in stacks. People always ask me about my hitting information. Usually you can kind of depict that from listening to me talk about the pitching and where I don't like players and where I think hitters are in good situations. But if you want me to rank my stacks, if you want to rank the pitchers and get access to that, link down below on Patreon for the second half of the year. I mean, it's a monthly rate, but you can check that out. And yeah, hit the like button. The biggest thing is hitting the subscribe button. About 45% of people watching the videos over the last 3 months have not been subscribed. So if I can just urge those people to hit that subscribe button, it helps me out a ton. Let's get into the video. So like I said, nobody over $10,000, at least right now, is in my player pool. Look, I get it. Gerrit Cole's 11.5. And he's kind of on a tier above everybody else, and that's factored into the price point of being $1,400 more expensive than everybody else on this slate. And really, for the most part, nobody else below him should even come close, and it's good that it doesn't. But he gets Texas today, and the fact that he's 11.5 is going to scare some people off, and I don't think he's too expensive for the stuff that he has. Right, he strikes out 39% of lefties, he strikes out 34% of righties, 36.7% K percentage is absolutely ridiculous. Right, outside of the guys who have 1 and 2 and 3 game samples like Clevenger and Lamet on this slate, he has the highest by far, and I believe he has the highest in the league, barely edging out Max Scherzer right now. So his opponent strikes out a lot. Texas strikes out a lot, but when you factor in Texas going up against righties, it becomes a little bit more challenging. Right now, they're terrible against lefties. They strike out the most against lefties. They have below league average power. I think they rank 20th right now against lefties. But when you put them in this exact situation at home against right-handed pitching, they strike out 10th most in the league against righties, so that's actually pretty good for Cole, right? Top 10 matchup. But then they're third in ISO, so they're a top 3 power team at home against righties. So when you factor in this ballpark in Texas, and you factor in also that Gerrit Cole does give up power, 1.31 home runs per 9. There's a chance here with a team that is top 5 in the league, top 3 in the league, generating power against righties, that you can see 2 home runs given up for Cole today. And at 11.5, it's really hard to kind of make that up. Now, they're also top 10 in strikeouts, so I can see this going either way. I could see it being a very safe matchup to where he gives up power to this lineup, but at the same time, he also strikes out 12 batters, and you're sitting there if Gerrit Cole can get the win, and you're still looking at 24 to 25 fantasy points. But I believe that this isn't a matchup for a 35-plus point performance out of Cole, and that's kind of what you need at 11.5, because if guys below him in the $8,000 or $7,000 range go for 25, 30 fantasy points tonight, and he's only at 33, you're saving $2,000, $3,000 for bats. I'd rather have that all day long. So right now, Gerrit Cole, I don't have interest in. Now, if he is 1% owned come later tonight on a 13-game slate, my interest is heavily going to shift to him. The biggest edge right now in DFS, and in baseball DFS definitely, is ownership. It's always ownership. It's always taking advantage of the fact that people have groupthink, and the fact that you're watching my video and you're going to go and watch Alsimo's videos, and you're going to go and watch Roto Grinders or Fantasy Labs articles, whatever it might be, all the content, and you're going to see where things correlate, and then you're going to say, oh, all these experts are saying that. Well, it has to be right. And then when everybody jumps on that, then you kind of pivot and leverage to the other things, right? Now, that doesn't mean I'm saying things to try and correlate with those people. I have no idea what content other people put out. Sometimes I watch Alsimo because I think that's very good content, but I don't watch anything else. I don't read anything else. I try and stay sort of in my own vacuum so I don't get exposed to groupthink, right? So trying to get away from the people that are very popular, even if they are in good situations, is usually the beneficial thing, especially in baseball where it is so variant. So Gerrit Cole, if he is not going to be on tonight, I will jump back onto him because I think it is an either way type matchup, but I don't think it's a great matchup. I'm not going to really hit on everybody, but I am shocked at the price points that DraftKings has put out. 10-1 for Domingo Herman. Look, I think this kid is great. I'm a Yankee fan. I love him. First of all, I'm very high on Toronto in terms of just the offense that they have for fantasy purposes, not as them as a team, right? They don't have any pitching, and overall, they're still very young. But this Toronto team is not an easy matchup, and 10-1 for Herman, who's maybe going to get you to the fifth inning. He doesn't have electric strikeout stuff. They're huge favorites today. But yeah, I personally am just not going to be going there. Now, it's the reason they're so big favorites is because they have the Yankees offense against Aaron Sanchez on the other side, who's just a guy who can't strike a single batter out, and he's just giving up loads and loads of power. So Herman is way too expensive. Delenton Lamet against Atlanta today, I don't get this price at $9,800. He's only pitched one time. He's a 26-year-old kid, and he pitched decent his last time out. But now you're going to tell me you're going to price him to $9,800 after one start against Atlanta, and we don't even know if this kid can go 5 or 6 innings. That seems pretty intense. Mike Clevenger against Minnesota. Minnesota is first in the league. They're first in the league on the road against right-handed pitchers in terms of the power that they generate. And then they're no easy strikeout matchup. They are 27, so the fourth hardest strikeout matchup for pitchers. And Clevenger obviously has a lot of question marks, so I can't get there. Spencer Turnbull at $9,000. Okay, now this is where you start to go, oh, okay, maybe I have interest here in Spencer Turnbull against Kansas City. But when you break down into the numbers, Kansas City at home is 22nd in strikeout rate. That's not great. So it's a well below average strikeout matchup for a pitcher in Turnbull who will generate strikeouts against righties, but not so much against lefties. And then you also look into the fact that they're 25th in ISO. So you're like, okay, this team doesn't have a lot of power, but they also are not striking out at home against righties. So Turnbull at $9,000 is the first guy who becomes interesting, but he's also not in my player pool because I think there's other upside elsewhere, and I think a lot of people are going to flock to him. So the first person I'll kind of drop to is $8,800 Sonny Gray. Oh, but it's a Coors Field game, Sal. Or a Coors Field game, Sal. Yeah, this is the thing. Sonny Gray, if you've been watching, is like pushing a top 10 pitcher this year, right? He made the All-Star game, as he should have, and he's looking great. So Sonny Gray is pitching in Coors. I get it. But the good thing about Sonny Gray is he only gives up a 28.1% fly ball percentage. That's one of the best 4 or 5 on this slate. So, I mean, Coors Field hurts you because if people are putting the ball in play, hard hit line drives, maybe they go out of the ballpark. Fly balls are going to carry a little bit extra with these juice balls in those elevated spots, right? So I think that it's going to be taken by me saying this as, oh, you're crazy. But I hope so. I hope Sonny Gray, because he's pitching in Coors today, goes at 1% ownership. This guy's pitching absolutely fantastic this year. He's not giving up any power to either side of the plate. He's generating 55.8% ground ball rate, which is the second highest on the slate, only behind Dallas Keuchel. And Keuchel is just a ground ball pitcher, but Keuchel also has a small sample size. So I'll just say that Sonny Gray is the best ground ball pitcher on this slate, which is exactly what you want going into Coors Field. Only 0.9 home runs per 9. That is the 4th lowest on this slate. Or that is actually the 3rd lowest on this slate. So he's a guy who's not giving up power. He's not giving up fly balls. And that's exactly what you want as a pitcher in Coors Field. But he also has strikeout upside, and he's also looked fantastic. So $8,800 Sonny Gray. I hope everybody goes, oh, he's in Coors Field, though, Sal, because then I'm going to have so much of him. The guy right below him at $8,600 is Caleb Smith. And I have interest in Caleb Smith today. The Mets, on the road against lefties, are striking out the 10th most in the league. Now, they're also 9th in ISO, so they're a top 10 power hitting team on the road versus lefties, but they're also a top 10 strikeout matchup. And when you factor in that Caleb Smith is a lot of strikeout stuff, but also gives up a lot of power, well, this can go either way. But $8,600, I'd rather take the chance on this going either way than $11,500 for $3,000 more at Gerrit Cole. Now, obviously, Gerrit Cole is the more talented pitcher, but the difference between him and Caleb Smith is not that ridiculous when you take into account their matchups today. So the fact that Caleb Smith gives up a lot of power is worrisome. You're going to put him in a ballpark that'll play a little bit neutral, if not help the hitter or help the pitchers in Miami, especially if the roof is closed. So yeah, I do like Caleb Smith at $8,600. I think he is the safer Gerrit Cole option, and you're saving $3,000. He's a guy who has monster strikeout stuff, 30.1%. But he also gives up monster power. So the middle of this lineup for the Mets is really where you can kind of target with one-offs. Your Alonso's obviously, but lefty on lefty, I think Conforto will still be fine. So yeah, Sonny Gray and Caleb Smith are the first 2 players in my player pool. And then I go all the way down. Like, you can look at a bunch of different pitchers here. Yonny Chirinos at Baltimore. It's not that great of a matchup, especially because we don't know if Chirinos is only going to go 5 innings or not. Dallas Keuchel, I can't get to a guy in Dallas Keuchel. No. I can't get to a guy in Dallas Keuchel who just has no strikeout stuff. He's not a good fantasy pitcher. You're hoping that he gets the win, which he's a small favorite to do so here, but you're hoping that he gets the win and goes like 6 or 7 innings and just doesn't give up any runs, which is like the way that you get points with Dallas Keuchel all the time. And it makes him a good real-life pitcher, but not a great fantasy pitcher. Eduardo Rodriguez against the Dodgers, there's just no way. This Dodgers lineup is so great. Erod might have strikeout stuff against lefties, but he also gives up a 270 ISO to lefties, which is absolutely terrible. He's getting crushed by lefties, and the first 3 batters he'll probably face today are Jock Peterson, Max Muncy, and Cody Bellinger. And then you still have Verdugo and like 2 other lefties in that lineup. So there's no way, even at $8,000, I touch that. I thought I might have interest in Robbie Ray today, but after breaking down into some of the splits, St. Louis is only 20th. They're 20th in the league in ISO, so slightly below average in the league in ISO, but they're 26th in strikeout percentage. So even though Robbie Ray has a lot of strikeout percentage, and I think he's actually too cheap here, 30.4% K rate at this price point. I mean, he should be priced up somewhere closer to $9,000 if you want to take into account K rate only. But he's facing a team that is bottom 5 in the league striking out against lefties at home, and they're bottom 10 also in ISO. So it's sort of the situation where, okay, they're not going to have a lot of power, but they're also not going to strike out. You have a strikeout pitcher here, so that should boost the strikeout numbers overall for Robbie Ray in this game, but I'm not sure it's going to quantify enough to kind of get me to 7,900. Especially when you take into account that Robbie Ray does get hit hard and he does give up walks against a patient team in St. Louis. The third guy in my player pool will be Jason Vargas. Look, he goes up against Miami. It's pretty much because he's going up against Miami, to be honest. They're dead last in the league facing generating power against lefties at home. Yes, they're 30th in the league, and they're 17th in the league in strikeout percentage. So the strikeout percentage numbers are actually not that great. Less than favorable, barely. Closer to average matchup for Jason Vargas, a guy who really doesn't generate any strikeout stuff, but the fact that they just don't generate much power. So Vargas is going to be, if he gets any bit chalky at all, he's going to be a very easy pivot for me. I don't want to go to a guy who, sure, he gets a very easy matchup in terms of the team not having power, but they also don't strike out a ton, and he doesn't generate strikeouts. So if he gives up like 4 singles, 2 walks, and 2 earned runs, this guy's going to go 5 innings and get you like 5 fantasy points. So yeah, 7,800 for Vargas. I think it's fine because of the matchup, but if he garners any ownership, which I think he will, I'm probably not going to get there. The next guy I want is Danny Duffy, lefty against Detroit. Look, Detroit's 8th in strikeouts, so they strike out the 10th most against lefties overall. They're 19th in ISO, so below average in power, above average in terms of how much they strike out. So a good spot for Danny Duffy, a guy who seems to like never be on the winning lineups, but he goes 5.78 innings pitched per start, so he's getting into the 6th inning a lot in beneficial matchups, which we see today. He doesn't have great strikeout stuff, right? Yeah, 19.9% K rate is all he has, but at 6,800, what you're hoping for here out of Danny Duffy is go 6 innings, get us 5 strikeouts, limit the damage against a Detroit team that doesn't do much damage against lefties in general. So Danny Duffy is the 4th guy in my player pool. Chase Anderson right below him at 6,300 will be the 5th guy in my player pool. So Chase Anderson's matchup today, I actually like it a lot. At home against righties, San Francisco is striking out the 7th most in the league, and they generate the 2nd lowest ISO in the league, the 29th. So you're going to get a team that doesn't have a lot of power and strikes out top 10 against lefties. And Chase Anderson, unlike Danny Duffy, unlike Jason Vargas, actually strikes batters out. 23.2% of righties, 23.1% of lefties. So 23.2 overall K percentage is pretty good when you factor in that he's only at 6,300. Like nobody else has that. The only guys down here in the price point that you're going to see around that type of K percentage, 23% or higher, are Kyle Gibson, but he's also $1,300 more expensive. And then the openers in terms of Taylor Cole, and then you can go to Jesse Chavez if you really want against Houston, but I'm not going to be going there. So I actually like Chase Anderson a lot today. I played him a couple times and it's worked out this year. 6,300 I believe is too cheap for him. It seems like a slate where you're going to have to pay up for batters. I mean, maybe if Gerrit Cole is at 1 to 5% owned, I'm going to hop on him and a Chase Anderson combo in my main lineups. But other than that, I think I take stabs on Sonny Gray and Caleb Smith combos, or Sonny Gray with a Chase Anderson as of right now. Kyle Gibson might be a guy that some people want to flock to. I'm not sure what they're doing with him. His last start he opened as a pitcher opener. I believe that was maybe just because it was before the All-Star break. The matchup is not that great against Cleveland, to be honest with you, and it's just not something, even at 7,600, I get it, he's a little bit cheap. It's not something that I want to flock to, where I imagine a lot of the ownership flocks to, even, and especially when you take into account that he's a decent-sized underdog today. So, just recapping, Gerrit Cole's the only thing that above $9,000 stands out to me, but I still don't have interest because of the price point. Sonny Gray, I hope he goes dirt low owned because he's the exact type of pitcher that you want in Coors Field. A guy who gets a ton of ground balls, doesn't give up home runs, and just doesn't give up fly balls. And also has the strikeout stuff. Caleb Smith, it's a very interesting matchup. He gives up a lot of power. The Mets generate power against lefties, but they also strike out a lot against lefties, and he strikes a lot of guys out. So it can go either way there. He's the more volatile play, I believe, even though Sonny Gray is in. Between him and Sonny Gray, even with Sonny Gray being in Coors Field. Vargas is a guy who I'm very hesitant on. I think he'll garner ownership against Miami. He's also a guy who can go out there and pitch 7 innings and get you 25 fantasy points. He's also a guy who can go out there and pitch 4 innings and get you 5 fantasy points. I mean, there's a lot of guys on the slate, but even against Miami, he's a guy who can do that. He's very volatile. I prefer Chase Anderson as the cheap end pitching, I believe, today. So that's where I'm at. Hopefully you liked this video. My name's Sal. Best of luck today, everybody. Follow me on Twitter at SalVetryDFS. You can follow me there for updates. You can follow me on Patreon down below. You can subscribe there. You can get my articles as well as these stat sheets. And yeah, I appreciate it. Hit the red subscribe button. If you watch this whole video and you're not subscribed, please just take the next 2 seconds to hit that button. It helps me out a ton. So peace out, gang. Best of luck today. See ya.